Hey you! Did you know any of these curious facts? 1. The world's first animated feature film was made in Argentina. You might assume that the honor of first animated feature film belongs to Walt Disney's 1937 movie, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. But 20 years earlier, a full-length animated feature film was made in Argentina. It was a political satire called El Apostol, made up of 58,000 drawings, and had a running time of 70 minutes, according to the Guinness Book of World Records. 2. Japan has one vending machine for every 31 people. Japan is thought to have one of the highest densities of vending machines in the world, with one for every 31 people in the country. While most sell various types of beverages, others feature ice cream, noodles, and disposable cameras. 3. McDonald's once made bubblegum-flavored broccoli. Unsurprisingly, the attempt to get kids to eat healthier didn't go over well with the child testers, who were confused by the taste. 4. Some fungi create zombies, then control their minds. The tropical fungus Ophiocordyceps infects ants' central nervous systems. Once it has been in an insect's body for 9 days, it has complete control over the host's movements. According to National Geographic, it forces the ant to climb trees, then convulse and fall into the cool, moist soil below, where fungi thrive. Once there, the fungus waits until exactly solar noon to force the ant to bite a leaf and wait for death. 5. The first oranges weren't orange. The original oranges from Southeast Asia were a tangerine pomelo hybrid, and they were actually green. In fact, oranges in warmer regions, such as Vietnam and Thailand, still stay green through maturity. 6. A cow-bison hybrid is called a beefalo, with 3/8 American bison blood and 5/8 European cattle. The reasons for raising beefalo center on their handling like domestic cattle, while retaining bison traits. Early documentation showed that beefalo could be finished and marketed at up to 40% less cost than a conventional beef animal. You can even buy its meat in at least 21 states. 7. Samsung tests phone durability with a butt-shaped robot. People stash their phones in their back pockets all the time, which is why Samsung created a robot shaped like a butt to sit on their phones to make sure they can take the pressure. Believe it or not, the robot even wears jeans. 8. Peanuts aren't technically nuts. According to Merriam-Webster, a nut is only a nut if it's a hard-shelled dry fruit or seed, with a separable rind or shell and interior kernel. That means walnuts, almonds, cashews, and pistachios aren't nuts either. They're seeds. 9. Some octopus species can lay up to 100,000 eggs at a time. According to NPR reports, on average, a giant Pacific octopus will lay between 18,000 and 74,000 eggs at the end of a pregnancy. In some cases, they can lay up to 100,000 over the course of about a month. At first, these new babies float through the surrounding water unattached to one another or their mother. But then, the mother gathers each egg and weaves them into braids of about 250 eggs, allowing her to keep an eye on everyone at the same time. 10. Kleenex tissues were originally intended for gas masks. When there was a cotton shortage during World War I, Kimberly-Clark developed a thin, flat cotton substitute that the Army tried to use as a filter in gas masks. The war ended before scientists perfected the material, so the company redeveloped it to be smoother and softer, then marketed Kleenex as facial tissue instead. 11. The tiny pocket in jeans was designed to store pocket watches. Designed by Levi Strauss and Jacob Davis in 1873. It targeted the buyers for the work trousers such as carpenters, railroad workers, farmers, and miners. 12. Most Disney characters wear gloves to keep animation simple. Walt Disney might have been the first to put gloves on his characters, as seen in 1929's The Opry House, starring Mickey Mouse. In addition to being easier to animate, there's another reason for the gloves. We didn't want him to have mouse hands because he was supposed to be more human, Disney told his biographer in 1957. 13. The current American flag was designed by a high school student. It started as a school project for Bob Heft's junior year history class in 1958, and it only earned a B-. He reached an agreement with his teacher that if the flag was selected as the official flag by the United States Congress, he would get a better grade for the project. After President Dwight D. Eisenhower called to say the design was approved, Heft's teacher changed his grade to an A. His design had 50 stars and was chosen out of more than 1,500 other designs. 14. Avocados were named after reproductive organs. Indigenous people of Mexico and Central America use the Nahuatl word ahuacatl to mean both testicles and avocado. The fruits were originally marketed as alligator pears in the United States until the current name stuck. 15. The word fizzle started as a type of fart, thought to be an alteration of the Middle English fist flatus, which in addition to providing us with the verb for breaking wind quietly, was also generous enough to serve as the basis for a now obsolete noun meaning a silent fart. 16. Human noses and ears get bigger as we age. It's pretty common to see the claim that our nose and ears are the only parts of our body that keep growing as we age. But that's not exactly true. Our nose and ears stop growing along with the rest of our body. But thanks to the weight of gravity, both parts continue to lengthen over time. 17. No number before 1,000 contains the letter A. This letter is the second most commonly used, yet if you were to spell out every number from 1 to 999, not one contains the letter A. 18. This symbol isn't officially called hashtag or pound. Its technical name is octothorpe. The octo means 8 and refers to its points, though reports disagree on where Thorpe came from. Some claim it was named after Olympian Jim Thorpe, while others argue it was just a nonsense suffix. 19. You can thank the Greeks for calling Christmas Xmas. In Greek, the word for Christ starts with the letter chi, which looks like an X in the Roman alphabet. 20. Movie trailers originally played after the movie. Film trailers were conceived in 1913 by Niels Granlund, the advertising manager of Marcus Loew Theaters, when he spliced together rehearsal footage of The Pleasure Seekers, a Broadway play at the time, into a mini promotional montage that trailed after films shown at Loew's theaters. 21. Mercedes invented a car controlled by a joystick. In the 1966 Mercedes showcased the F200, a car controlled by joystick rather than the conventional steering wheel and pedals that could be toggled between the driver and passenger. 22. H&M actually stands for something. In Swedish, hennes means hers. The store was designed keeping women in mind. Later on, acquiring the hunting and fishing equipment brand Maurits Vidfors. The H&M is the abbreviation for Hennes and Mauritz. 23. Theodore Roosevelt had a pet hyena. Its name was Bill, and it was a present from the Ethiopian emperor. Roosevelt was famous for his many pets, including a one-legged rooster, a badger, a pony, and a small bear. 24. The CIA headquarters has its own Starbucks, but baristas don't write names on the cups. Its receipts say store number 1 instead of Starbucks, and its workers need an escort to leave their work posts. 25. There's only one U.S. state capital without a McDonald's. Montpelier, Vermont doesn't have any of those golden arches. It also happens to have the smallest population of any state capital, with just 7,500 residents. 26. Europeans were scared of eating tomatoes when they were introduced. Scholars think Hernan Cortés brought the seeds in 1519, with the intent of the fruits being used ornamentally in gardens. By the 1700s, aristocrats started eating tomatoes, but they were convinced the fruits were poisonous because people would die after eating them. So they nicknamed the fruit poison apple. In reality, the acidity from the tomatoes brought out the lead in their pewter plates, and they actually died of lead poisoning. 27. Humans aren't the only animals that dream. Studies have indicated rats dream about getting to food or running through mazes. Most mammals go through REM sleep, the cycle in which dreams occur. So scientists think there's a good chance they all dream. 28. Sloths have more neck bones than giraffes. Despite the difference in neck length, there are more bones in the neck of a sloth than a giraffe. There are 7 vertebrae in the neck of a giraffe, and in most mammals, but a 2-fingered sloth has only 6, and 3-fingered sloth has 9. 29. Bees can fly higher than Mount Everest. A University of Wyoming assistant professor has generated quite a bit of buzz with his discovery that some alpine bumblebees can fly to heights greater than Mount Everest. That's more than 29,000 feet above sea level. 30. Ancient Egyptians used dead mice to ease toothaches. Ancient Egyptians believed that slicing a dead mouse in half and placing it on the teeth or gums while it was still warm would cure toothache. 31. Paint used to be stored in pig bladders. For centuries before the invention of the paint tube, artists used to store their paints in pig bladders. When the artist was ready to use the paint, they would puncture a hole in the bladder and squeeze out the desired amount of paint. 32. Abraham Lincoln was a bartender. The 16th President of the United States fought for the freedom of slaves and the Union. But what you didn't know is that he was a licensed bartender. Lincoln's liquor license was discovered in 1930 and displayed in a Springfield liquor store. According to Wayne C. Temple, a Lincoln expert, Congress wanted to fire Ulysses S. Grant in 1863 because he drank a lot. And Lincoln's response was to send Grant a supply of whiskey. 33. Japan released sushi-inspired Kit Kats. For a limited time in 2017, Tokyo's Kit Kat Chocolatory Shop made 3 types of the chocolate bar that were inspired by sushi but didn't actually taste like raw fish. The tuna sushi was raspberry, the seaweed-wrapped one tasted like pumpkin pudding, and the sea urchin sushi was the flavor of Hokkaido melon with mascarpone cheese. 34. Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ron Wayne started Apple Inc. on April Fool's Day. The 3 technology innovators signed the documents to form the Apple Computer Company on April 1st, 1976. But the company was not fully incorporated until January 3rd, 1977. 30 years later, the company was renamed Apple Inc. and is no joke. In 2018, Apple became the country's first trillion-dollar company. 35. A waffle iron inspired one of the first pairs of Nikes. Bill Bowerman was a track and field coach in the 1950s who didn't like how running shoes were made. He first created the Cortez shoe, but wanted a sneaker that was even lighter and could be worn on a variety of surfaces. During a waffle breakfast with his wife in 1970, he came up with the idea of using the waffle texture on the soles of running shoes. Waffle-soled shoes made their big debut in the 1972 U.S. Olympic track and field trials. 36. A woman called the police when her ice cream didn't have enough sprinkles. The West Midlands Police in England released a recording of a woman who called 999 because there were bits on one side and none on the other. She says in the recording, "Police in general have been releasing recordings of the bizarre phone calls that are jamming emergency lines, between a prostitute not being attractive enough to ranting about undercooked waffles." 37. The British Empire was the largest empire in world history. In 1913, 412 million people lived under the control of the British Empire, 23% of the world's population at that time. It remains the largest empire in human history and at the peak of its power. In 1920, it covered an astonishing 13.71 million square miles. That's close to a quarter of the world's land area. 38. Penicillin was first called mold juice. In 1928, bacteriologist Alexander Fleming left a petri dish in his lab while he was on vacation, only to return and find that some liquid around the mold had killed the bacteria in the dish. This became the world's first antibiotic, but before naming it penicillin, he called it mold juice. as it was the juice produced by the mold that actually destroyed the bacteria. 39. The first stroller was engineered to be pulled, not pushed. William Kent developed an early stroller in 1733 for the Duke of Devonshire, as upper-class parents were hardly expected to put effort into transporting their children around. Kent obliged by constructing a shell-shaped basket on wheels that the children could sit in. This was richly decorated and meant to be pulled by a goat or small pony. 40. Neil Armstrong's hair was sold for $3,000. Armstrong, the first man to walk on the moon, used to go to Marx's barber shop in Lebanon about once a month for a cut. That stopped when he learned that owner Marx Sizemore had collected his hair clippings from the floor and sold them in May 2004. The lucky buyer, John Resnikoff, holds the Guinness World Record for the largest collection of hair from historical celebrities, including hair from Abraham Lincoln, Marilyn Monroe, Albert Einstein, and Napoleon. 41. Pregnancy tests date back to 1350 BC. According to a document written on ancient papyrus, Egyptian women urinated on wheat and barley seeds to determine if they were pregnant or not, reports the Office of History in the National Institutes of Health. If wheat grew, it predicted a female baby. If barley grew, it predicted a male baby. The woman was not pregnant if nothing grew. Experimenting with the seed theory in 1963 proved it was accurate 70% of the time. 42. Albert Einstein's eyeballs are in New York City. German-born physicist Albert Einstein's eyeballs are believed to be stored in a safe deposit box in New York City. The eyes were reportedly extracted during an autopsy in 1955, conducted by pathologist Thomas Harvey, and were given to Henry Abrams, Einstein's eye doctor. Thomas Harvey, the man who performed the autopsy on Einstein, illegally took the scientist's brain for himself. 43. A one-armed player scored the winning goal in the first World Cup. Hector Castro, better known in Uruguay as El Divino Manco, who accidentally cut off his right forearm while using an electric saw as a teenager, played on the Uruguay soccer team during the first ever World Cup in 1930. In the last game between Uruguay and Argentina, Castro scored the winning goal in the last minute of the game, making Uruguay the first country to win the World Cup title. 44. The world's oldest toy is a stick. Think of how versatile a stick is. You can use it to play fetch with your dog, swing it as a bat, or use your imagination to turn it into a lightsaber. That's why, in 2008, the National Toy Hall of Fame inducted the stick into its collection of amazing toys, as very possibly the oldest toy ever. 45. Sloths can hold their breath longer than dolphins. Dolphins need to come up for air every 10 minutes, but sloths can hold their breath underwater for as long as 40 minutes. It does this by depressing its already slow metabolism, resulting in its heart rate falling to less than a third of its normal rate. 46. Supermarket apples can be a year old. According to the University of Tennessee Institute of Agriculture, farmers often pick apples in the fall, cover them in wax, hot air dry them, and then put them in cold storage between 30 and 40 degrees Fahrenheit. This keeps them edible and ready to sell for 6 to 12 months. 47. McDonald's serves spaghetti in the Philippines. The mixed spaghetti meat sauce pasta comes with a side of McDo fried chicken. It's made with a much sweeter bolognese sauce, consisting of banana ketchup and hot dogs. 48. Competitive art was once an Olympic sport. Art competitions formed part of the modern Olympic Games during its early years, from 1912 to 1948. The competitions were part of the original intention of the Olympic movement's founder, Pierre de Frady. Medals were awarded for works of art inspired by sport, divided into 5 categories: architecture, literature, music, painting, and sculpture. 49. The Spanish national anthem has no words. The Marcha Real is one of only 4 national anthems in the world, along with those of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kosovo, and San Marino, to have no official lyrics. 50. Kuchisabishi is Japanese for unconscious eating. It translates to lonely mouth, which refers to the desire of eating when you're not hungry because your mouth is lonely. And there you have it, folks. In a world brimming with curious tidbits and eyebrow-raising revelations, it's clear that reality is stranger than fiction. From the clandestine adventures of Abraham Lincoln, moonwalking pioneer Neil Armstrong's hair-raising escapade, to the culinary concoctions of McDonald's across the globe, it's a whirlwind of wonder and absurdity. Imagine a universe where cows and bison engage in clandestine love affairs, where a stick reigns supreme in the toy kingdom, and where even the most mundane objects, like a hashtag, harbor secrets of their own. From the humble beginnings of mold juice, birthing penicillin, to the Olympic glory of competitive art, there's no shortage of surprises to ponder over. So, the next time you take a sip from a vending machine in Japan, ponder the existential crisis of a butt-shaped robot stress testing your smartphone, or marvel at the audacity of a one-armed soccer hero. Remember one thing: reality might be stranger than you think, but it's certainly never boring. Embrace the absurdity, relish the humor, and let the quirky facts of life keep you entertained on this wild ride we call existence. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss out on another fascinating fact. Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear which fact you found the most interesting. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.